Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of T-Dog RC, and this is part 5 of the Tony Nijhuis 25-inch EDF Gnat build, which I am building from a wood pack. So it's a CNC cut wood pack. That's all I've got, just the wood, going off the plans. And this episode is going to be all about getting the side pods sorted. So we've done the fuselage and we've got to move on to the side pods now. Just a quick message: if this is the first time you found my channel and you haven't subscribed, then if you could hit the subscribe button, it doesn't cost you anything, that would be absolutely superb. If you're into Balsa, fixed wing, EDFs, a little bit of FPV, wing flying as well, then you want to tune into my channel. And massive thanks to all those people who've already subscribed. And as usual, if you like the video, then give me a thumbs up. That helps me out with YouTube as well. And without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay guys, welcome back to the bench for part 5. First thing I'm going to do is test the fan to make sure. Well, I've attached a speed controller now, 30 amp speed controller. And I just want to make sure it's all going the right way, because the speed controller and these wires go inside the pods. So it says in the instructions it's a good time to check it. So I'm just going to hook this up with a servo tester, see what we get. No, that is going the wrong way. So we'll swap a couple of these around. Let's just unplug it to be on the safe side. It's annoying because the cables are colour coded, but as usual, like many speed controllers, it's never right when you plug it in first time, even though I've matched the colours up, but it doesn't matter, you're not going to see it. Let's try again. That's better. Well, moving it along the desk, and that's barely even touching the throttle, so that's a good sign. Right, let's get all this unplugged. And then I'm no doubt this is going to annoy me, so I think what I'm going to do is try and tape this temporarily. I'll see, because it is actually going to have to sort of fit in the side pod, I think. Oh no, it's not actually. The speed controller can go in here, I think. But yeah, that's going to sort of rattle around while I'm fettling with it, so I'll secure that with a bit of tape. So that's that done. So next job is I've got to cut these formers out. So these are the side pod formers. Just need to double check on the plan that there isn't any others, but I think that's it. So these two here, these are former 12. Yeah, that is it, because there's 3. So these go on the front, and as you can see, they're solid. But what you actually do is they're literally just there for you to form the balsa sides around, and then once you've got everything glued into place, you actually knock these out. These are sacrificial formers, so it's just to get the shape, and then you obviously just have these 2 in the middle and at the back. So I'll get these cut out. Then what we've got to do is mark on the fuselage where these go. Sorry guys, just had to duck off there because I heard that unmistakable sound of a military jet flying overhead. Looked out my workshop window and there's 3 F-15E Eagles flying over. Took off from Lakenheath over in Norfolk, heading west. We're in the Midlands here, so they sort of fly over us. And I'm guessing they're heading out to sort of Wales way, maybe to do some training, but seems a bit odd because they came over the other night as well and I've never noticed them before. I would have heard them, I'm sure, but seems a bit late in the day to be heading out towards like the Mac Loop or something like that to do some training, but interesting. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, so what I was saying was you've got to be really careful how we mark these up on the sides, because Obviously we don't want one to be higher on this side than that side and want them all to be in exactly the same place. So I need to take a little bit of time just to get these marked out and make sure that's as accurate as possible. But first of all, let me get these cut out, and then we'll come back and I'll show you where I've marked them on the side. Okay, so I've got the formers cut out and just sanded down a little bit, and then I've very carefully traced, drawn on here where the formers go based on, let's just check that you can see that okay, sort of, based on this section of the plan basically here. So this is kind of a close-up of the fuselage side, so you got 12, 13, 14 there. So I've measured those out, drawn the lines on here, and then with 12 I've had to mark where it comes down to and make sure that's obviously accurate on the other side as well. But then the rest of them, like 13, that actually just goes on and it just sits level with so the top of that lip there sits level with the lip of this intake, side intake bit here, and that lines up perfectly. And as you can see here, that bit just meets there, and that's the same as well for 14. So that just lines up like that and just sits there. So that works out quite nice. It makes it quite easy to sort of get the height of these all the same with the other side, apart from 12. The trick is, of course, now has got to make sure that they're nice and square. So to do that, I think the only way I'm going to be able to do it is to kind of lie this flat like this, and I have to have the back end off the board because of these snakes. Put this on here, and then very gently put one of my, I think I'm going to have to do it from this side, put one of these blocks on and just sort of line it up like that. Or could use this also, my little set square. That's probably better, I think. And just make sure it's nice and square, and then just put a couple of little dabs of CA just to secure that in place. And obviously with former 12 I'm literally going to just put a little dab at the bottom, a little dab at the top, because we're going to be getting rid of that, so I don't want to like soak it in CA and make it really hard to remove. So let's just make sure this isn't blocked up, because it's blocked up every time I go to use it, which is really annoying. So we'll get this in position now. So the back of number 12 is flush with the front of this intake here, so again it's fairly easy to line up in that respect, but it's just making sure it's at the right height, and of course it's level like we've said. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just get on and use the same procedure to get the 13 and 14 glued in place. So I'll get on and do that now. Now, just thinking about it, the other side's going to be really tricky, isn't it? Because I can't lay it flat. Gonna have to have a think about that one. Anyway, let's get these fastened on for now. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to find something to rest it on. Probably like I could rest it on these two things here in between the formers just to raise it up. These are nice and square. I'll do that. Okay, right, let's do 13 then. So we're going to line that up here. Okay, and then finally we will put 14 in place. Even trickier this one because it's very small. You can only really line it up on this bit. Okay, let that set for a minute. Then I'll get on and do the other side, and then I'll show you the finished result. Right then, that is that done. And again, pretty pleased with that. They've gone on quite well. They're pretty square and sort of parallel to each other, so that's good. Actually, I think I've probably got Former 12 the best. They're absolutely bang on, millimetre perfect. These ones are pretty good, don't get me wrong, but ironically these two front ones are the ones we're going to end up knocking out. But anyway, that's fine. That looks good to me. They're not very strong, of course, very flimsy, so I've got to be careful I don't knock them off. And so next job, what I've got to do now there on is I've got to get some more bits out of the box. In fact, I'll just get those out now. I'll just put that to one side. I'm done with that for the next section. If we get what's left of the wood pack out, let's take a look at what we've got. So it's this sheet here that I need. So we're down to our last two little bits of wood in the wood packet, which is just the horizontal stabiliser, as you can see there. Sorry, yeah, that is the horizontal stabiliser, is it? Yeah, it must be, because there's two of them. That must be the rudder fin. So we'll put this back. So these are the two bits I need next. I need to cut these out, and these are basically the intake sides. And then what I've got to do is, there's some thinner or smaller triangle section as well in the wood pack. So I've got these pieces here, and again, similar to what we did with the fuselage sides, we've got to line these up. I'll make sure this time that I get the triangle on the right way, and there's not too much of a curve in this as well, so it should be a lot easier to get that triangle on there. So that's my next job, but that's going to be for another evening for me. So obviously for you guys it'll be just in the next clip. But it's absolutely baking hot in here. It's roasting hot outside, so I'm going to call it a day for now, and I'll see you in the next clip. Alright then, back after that last clip, which was actually done a few days ago. So just trying to get my bearings again now. We've had another heat wave here in the UK, and I think across most of Europe. It's been absolutely baking hot, almost too hot really to come in the workshop, because it's been like 33 degrees, and it's just hot when you're in here because there's no insulation and all that. So, but it's cooling down a bit now, so I thought I'd come back in tonight. And what I'm going to do now is, so in the last clip I got these formers glued on the side of the fuselage. So now what we've got to do is put these balsa sheet from the wood pack, these laser cut bits, and we've got to get those glued on here. But before we do that, we've got to line these with triangle, and then I also just need to quickly cut this one out. So that's the left hand I've written on. I'm not going to make the same mistake as I made last time, absolutely not. So I've written on here left hand out, so you know that does exactly what it says. So this side is going to be where the triangle goes on, and then if I just get this one cut out from the tabs on here. So this is, I think, 1/8 balsa sheet, fairly soft. Obviously this has been laser cut as part of the wood pack. So let's just pop that out. Let's just get this off here. There we go. And I can put this back in the box actually for a little while, because as you can see there, this has got the cutouts for the fin on there. So I'll keep that safe and put that back in here. So this one is going to be right hand side, and I'm doing it as if you were obviously looking at it from the front like that. So to me that's the right, that's the left. I suppose technically you could say starboard and port on a plane, but I can't be bothered to do that. So yeah, that's left hand out. So this one's going to go this way round, like that. And the reason I know it goes like that is because this elevator slot or horizontal stab slot there goes at the bottom. So it's going to go on here, something like this. That goes right at the back there, just on the edge. So glue that on. Hopefully you can see that. It goes right on the back there. I've checked the plans and the instructions. It's a little bit unclear, but I think it literally just goes on here just a tiny bit. So I just need to make sure I've got it the same amount each side. And then essentially this just goes on there like that. And the triangle section will sort of help you position it as well, because of these bits here will kind of fit into the triangle section. So let's just make sure we write on here. So this is going to be right hand out. So we want the triangle section on here. And the triangle section on that side. So I'll just do one at a time. I'll tell you what I might do actually is measure, see if I can measure the overlap between this front former 12 and the front of this side pod, and I guess that will give me potentially where it needs to be. But the problem is, yeah, the only thing is they've kind of shown it as if it's been shaped because they sand it off at an angle. But basically that is 20 mils. So that's 20 mils. Whoops. Sorry about that, just bashed the camera. So 20 mils, if I mark that on here, that's going to be there. Let's see. That means that's going to go there like that. Yeah, that is about where I'd guessed it went. So that is about right actually. So this just literally fits on the back there just. But I think I would give it a little bit more space, to be honest, because there's not much to stick it on there at the back. Literally like a half a mil. Right, so triangle next, and this is thinner stuff than was used on the fuselage. This is 9.5 mil, I think. Somewhere it tells me on the plan. Come on, 9.5 mil. Yep, so I was right. So we've got to line that up. Let's put that one to one side. So we know that this is definitely a left hand out. So that's going on this side. So it's not lined all the way up and down. So there's only it goes all along the bottom. So it's all along the bottom like this. No, like that even. Getting mixed up already. So it goes all along there. So let's just trim a bit off there. Obviously I'll sand this square. So that goes along the bottom. It's a little bit misleading because on the plan I'm assuming it's a bit of a mistake on the plan. This top section that you can see of the intake, they've actually sort of drawn an outline of the triangle. Unless that's meant to be the bottom, but I don't think it is. So it looks like the triangle goes all the way along at the top, but it doesn't. Because if you look at the side view, which is here, you've got, I don't know, you probably can't see it that well, but you've got the triangle that's definitely running all the way along the bottom, and there's that piece, that longer piece there that runs at the back on the top, and then you've just got that little piece there that I've cut, which just fits there. So that's what we'll go with. There is some, if you go on the Tony Nijhuis website, there are some build photos as well, which is pretty handy. So you can see here, these are the two side pods, and you can just about make out there. It is exactly as I've done it. So you've got that piece running along the bottom, all the way along, top piece there, and then that little bottom piece basically just meets up with where you start to get this curve. So you can see there, that's where you get the curve, that's where the wing sits. So that piece has just got to fit between the front and that curve, and as it happens, the way I've measured it, 25 mils, is pretty much bang on. So we'll go with that. Okay, and the other thing it shows you is on this bottom piece, they've cut slots in it just to sort of help bend it up. So slots along here. So we'll put a couple of those in with the razor saw, and then also the same for this piece, just going along here like that, just to help you bend it round. Although that's not really too bad, to be honest. It doesn't need, I doubt it needs anything really, maybe just a tad. So the other thing I'm going to look at as well is, I think I put my slots in the wrong spot on the triangle before. I put them in the back, whereas on all the photos, they're all in the plan, it's in the front. So I want to see whether that actually does make it any easier to bend the triangle. We'll try it with this little piece, I think. So I'm going to have to sort of flip it up like that, cut the slots in and then flip it down. But I'm just going to have one last check as well, because the mistake I made on the fuselage side was I got the triangle glued on the wrong way, rather stupidly. So I need to make sure that I've got this one right. So that definitely goes like that. So in actual fact, that one was wrong. So let me just... So the slots are going to want to go here, like that. So what I am going to do now is get these slots cut and then glue that into position. So I won't film that, so it's not particularly interesting. So I'll get both sides done and then I'll be back as soon as I've done that. Right then, so got all the triangle glued into position. So that was all fine this time, no worries there. And then I've just started offering it up to the fuselage and sort of trying to figure out the best way of doing it, because it just didn't seem like a great fit. But having read the instructions, or rather looked at the plan several times, and seen on the actually on those photos, it says that the rear end sinks into the back of the fuselage, and I was thinking, when I was first offering it up before I put the triangle on, I was thinking, yeah, that makes sense, because it's, you know, an 8 Balsa. You put it so it sort of rests on there, and then it says get a scrap piece of 8 Balsa just to sort of fill this piece in and shape it in. So I was like, yeah, that all makes sense. But then of course, once you've got the triangle glued on, I was thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense now, because this is obviously a lot thicker now. So you've got this, and surely you don't get a big thick piece of Balsa. But what you do is, and then once this all makes sense then, because it kind of locks into position, because that's the only thing with this wood pack, is although these are laser cut parts, there's no like locking tabs or anything like that. So it's all sort of, everything's kind of just stuck on, glued on, and you know, has to stay in position. There's no sort of supporting tabs where with these kits where you can almost build it without glue. It's not like that at all. So what I've found is this actually slots into this section at the back of the fuselage. So that's obviously what these cutouts were for. So that actually goes in there like that. So the triangle fits in there like that, and as you can see there, look, that's a really nice fit, as you can see. And then, so that goes in there like that, and then it just goes around over there. You can see that's just level with the top of that former, which is perfect. And then at the front, we've just kind of got to glue it into position there, like that. Obviously, I'll probably glue. I think I'll probably glue the back in first, because that's my reference point to make sure it's in the right place. And then I'll just go through and glue this front bit, and then these front formers, this one here is actually going to get knocked out, so that's not going to be there, but that kind of all makes sense to me now. And then that is going to lock in quite nicely, and that's actually going to be pretty strong then, especially once I've put the sheeting on the top. So the only thing I've found with these formers, because they're sacrificial, it says just use a little blob of CA in the corners, but I've knocked them off twice already. So I've had to put a little bit more glue on them, but I'm just hoping they're not particularly strong, so hopefully that we will still be able to knock those out. I guess I'm going to have to be a bit careful how I glue. There's probably no point in gluing, sticking loads of glue in there, is there, on the former, because it's not going to be there effectively. I have to have a think about that, because I think there's just the only thing holding this in place will be the sheeting that you put on the top, which you'll glue on. So yeah, I think we'll make sure we don't actually, because you could, if with this being triangle and it being the grain end, you could soak some CA into there and really get it stuck on tight. But obviously, thinking about it, we don't want to do that. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to knock that former out. I might just put a little blob in the middle just to keep it in place. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to get this glued in position and get the other side done, and then I will show you the finished result. All right, that's all done. As you can see there, they are glued in place, and I've got to say, it's gone pretty well, really. I have made a little mistake, but I don't think it's going to be a showstopper. So I've sunk the back of these flush, but what you're actually meant to do is have them just sitting slightly proud, a couple of mils proud, and then glue a little piece on there, and then get the razor plane out and blend that in until, well, so there's nothing here. So it's just a little fillet piece, really. The only difference it's going to mean is I'll have a little slightly bigger gap between the end of the elevator and the fuselage, but it's not the end of the world. It looks quite nice and neat like that anyway, with the air intake being blended in. So there's quite a lot of tension, so I glued the back in first, and then by the time you get to this middle former here, there's a fair bit of tension on it, but should be fine. It's all CA'd in with plenty of CA. And then obviously you've got these two formers up front, which are going to be sacrificial formers, as they say. So I've got to knock those out at some point, which is going to be a bit tricky, I think, because I have used CA, and you do need to secure this, the outers as well to them. But anyway, we'll see how we go. I'm sure we'll be able to do it. So now I've got these on. The next job is to sheet the top and bottom, and looking at the pictures, it doesn't actually say on the plan or in the instructions or anything what to use, but it looks to me like they've used, you can tell from the picture that they've used this offcut from the fuselage side. It's not going to focus on that, I don't think. So this is 1/8 Balsa, but you can tell because you can see on the pictures that it's got these like rounded corners and the laser cut edges. So I'm pretty sure that's what they've used. They've used it on the front here, so I've just got to cut it to size there. There's only a little bit that goes on the front, because obviously you only sheet it up to here at the front, because you have to leave that gap for the wings. So sheet it up to there, and then at the back it'll start there again, level with where the wing slot is. So we'll glue that on there, and then obviously I'll cut that down with my knife. Same on the other side, and then on the underneath, the whole thing just wants sheeting, the whole lot. So I'm gonna have to find some 1/8 sheet. I think there's some more in the kit, and I've saved all of the offcuts. So for example, that piece there is perfect. I don't know what that's actually from. I might not, I might only have one of those, but I can use that to go on there and then cut that to shape. And then obviously something for this side as well. So I'll figure that out anyway. I'll definitely have enough bits of scrap to sort that, I'm sure. See, I've got some more. I've got a whole sheet there of 1/8, that's actually scrap. So that's not going to be a problem. So yeah, that's me done for tonight, because what time is it now? It's 20 to 11 at night, so I'm going to pack up and go to bed now, I think. I'll just do the top and bottom sheeting, which I'll show you in the next clip, and then that'll draw this video to a close. So yeah, that's the next thing I'm going to crack on with. Right, so back at it for another evening. I've cut this little piece here, which I just got out of this spare sheet of 1/8. So that's going to make up these bits here. Just need to trim it to size. I've cut it slightly oversized, as you can see there, so I can just shape it once I've got it glued on. And then for these bits at the back, I think I'll just use this bit of scrap, which, as I mentioned earlier, came out of the fuselage sides. So I'll use that and that will just go on there like that. So I'll get that glued in place there. Obviously I'll roughly shape it before I stick it on. And then for the underneath, I think I'll probably use this again. So I'll cut a piece there and then cut another piece for that. And that should just give me enough left over just to do these bits here. Although I will have a little bit of this as well. So I've also got that piece potentially. So I've got plenty of scrap that I can use. In fact, I think that piece, I think I showed this in the clip earlier yesterday. Yeah, that'll do an entire side, that will. So I'll use that for one of the sides. And I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to glue it with the wood glue again. Because I just find it a little bit better where you've got to shape stuff. The wood glue is a bit nicer than using CA, because, as I've said, CA gets very brittle, so it's not always the best thing for sanding and shaping and stuff like that. So probably all I'm going to do just now is get these bits cut out and then get them glued on, and then obviously tape it down or whatever, and then just leave it to dry overnight. So it's going to be a short sort of clip, this one. But what I'll do is I'll come back when I'm kind of halfway through, just so you can see where I've got to. So I'll see you in a second. Right, so slight change of plan. I've got the bottom sheeted. Looks pretty rough at the minute, but obviously this will all be nicely shaped. But I did in the end decide to use some thin CA. Reason being, it's a reasonable sort of curve there, and it's just difficult to sort of take down and pin down, or I think it is anyway. So just for speed, in the end, I've decided to use CA really. So all I'm doing, I've just got this little top section done here as well. So obviously it's just a case of, pretty straightforward really, but just lining it up. This bit's really easy because we're just bringing it level with the front of where the wing starts, the leading edge of the wing. Get the old razor saw to it, and then just line that up, and then just hit it with the C8. Obviously this is all going to be shaped and sanded. Also again, this is all running with the grain running down, so it's not cross grain, basically the grain's going lengthways. I think on a model this size you perhaps don't need all that extra strength that the cross grain sometimes brings, and it is a lot easier to shape when it's going lengthways, of course. I'll just get a bit more CA on there. And then I like to get it on this end grain here where the triangle section is, because it really soaks in there and starts smoking as well, so you know that it's a good bond is what I'm trying to say. So that's those bits done. So we've just got these little bits at the back. This offcut will probably do nicely for here. So that wants to run to about there. And then I am just trimming it down a little bit before I stick it on. But leaving plenty of excess there as well. In fact, I can't see that line. I might just glue that piece on actually, to be honest. As I say, I'm not cutting it right up to the line anyway, just to give myself an extra bit, just to be able to sand and plane off basically. So yeah, that goes on there nicely. So again, we'll get that CA'd in place. Just with these longer bits, just sort of tacking it at the front with the CA. This is the good thing about CA, is you can, you know, almost use it, you know, just a blob, just to tack it in place and hold it for a few seconds, and it goes off. That's how quick it is with the thin stuff anyway. So a bit more in the middle there. And then we'll just hold that end piece in position. Again, put it down the end grain so we get a really good bond there. And then once that's just gone off for a couple of minutes, I'll then run CA all along this edge, along the fuselage there and all along there, just to really get it bonded in place. So obviously I'll do the same for this one. So what I'll do is I'll get that one done and stuck on. That'll probably be me done for this evening. And then my next job now is going to be to just get this plane down and sanded. Sorry for the noise in the background, there's a plane going overhead. Actually, it wasn't just any plane, it was another group of F-15s again, I think. It's from Mildenhall. Well, I know, because I've looked on my flight tracker. So yeah, I'll get that piece stuck on, then get it all shaped, plane down, shaped and sanded. Obviously it's not going to be quite as big a job as doing this, because this was much thicker, so I need to be a bit more delicate with the shaping. And then the other thing I've seen from the pictures is these intakes here, they actually angle it, so I need to actually sort of cut that, and so it looks like they've actually just sanded it rather than cutting it actually, but I'll see anyway. But that they have actually, they're both at a sort of an angle. So I'll get all that done, but I won't film that. And then next episode is going to be basically moving on to the tail section. So we've got the fin, we've got to cut a slot in the centre of the fuselage here to mount the fin in, although it says not to glue that in place until just before you cover it, which makes sense because it's just going to be in the way. Doesn't have a rudder, so it's just a vertical stab. And then we'll get the tail glued in place as well on that episode, and then got to mount some servos here in the side pods for the elevators. And then do a few other little bits and bobs, get the radio gear in, all that sort of stuff. So that'll all be coming up in the next episode. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've made it to the end. If you have, then if you like what I'm doing, then please subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe if you're into Balsa fixed wing EDFs and bit of FPV and flying wings and all that sort of stuff, then you're going to want to subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate everyone who has already subscribed and everyone's support. It's brilliant. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up as well. That really helps me out. And yeah, I'll see you soon for the next one.